It's good to be here. I can't remember if it was Veronica or Doug that contacted me about this first. They asked me if I would speak, and I said, sure. And they said, what do you want you to speak about? They said, oh, you can speak about anything you want. And I said, well, then I'll speak about, establishing positive relationships with the umpires. And Veronica said, no, you. I said, okay, so my second choice is defense. But I came to Lacrosse having coached high school basketball for a number of years at Westminster before we started a lacrosse program. Obviously, I never played girls lacrosse. And I think defense has always been my favorite thing to coach, whether it was basketball or lacrosse. Defense is a fun thing to coach. And I think the way I'm going to do this today, or the way I'd like to do this today, is talk about kind of the things you look for in an individual defender, and then gradually build up to how you're going to teach your team defense. And at any point, if you have a question or if there's something you want to ask, see something a different way, just raise your hand, because I'll be happy to go through and answer any questions that you have. So, first things first, if you're a new program or you're just getting started out in coaching and you've got new players, a lot of times they don't know what position they want to play. Go around your circle, go around your roster, and ask the kids if anybody wants to play defense, because I will tell you, of any position on the field, their want to is more important than their how to. If a kid does not want to play defense, they will never be a good defender, and they will stick out on the field. Now, they may be a good lacrosse player. They may be able to throw and catch. They may be able to pick up a ground ball. Even if they do things right on the defensive end of the field, you're going to see them wanting to sneak out on the other end of the field, and then when the other team's coming back, they'll be the last one back. Or they're going to get frustrated because they really don't want to be down there, and they're going to be the one most likely to foul. You can hide a kid on offense. You can't hide a kid on defense. So I think it's important to establish who on your team wants to play. And of course, your first question may be, well, I don't have anybody that wants to play. Everybody wants to shoot, and everybody wants to score. You've got to be able to sell defense, and you've got to talk about the effect that good defense can have. You've got to talk about the team process of getting the ball from defense to offense, and talk about assists, and talk about other things. But when it comes to the end of the day, if a girl just tells you she does not want to play defense, then all of your effort, you're only going to get about 60% yield out of that compared to someone who wants to be down there. So the way we teach defense, at least, we try to work with defenders from the bottom up. And I think that's similar to boys lacrosse. I wasn't here this morning. Our boys coach spoke, Tony Souza, and he and I were kind of comparing notes, and when he saw this first slide, he said, "Did you get that? Did you been in my office?" I said, "No." But I think it's pretty similar. You got to have the footwork. And so quick feet, agility, speed, all of those things are going to be really important to your defenders. And I'll show you some drills on how we work on that, how we build a defender from the bottom up. Every player on your team, of course, must play defense at some point. And so when I say you've got to have people that want to play defense, I'm talking about those on the defensive end of the field. But of course, you've still got to be able to sell defense to your attackers for your ride when you're redefending. We teach our defenders, and I'm sure we're not the only ones, you can react to what the offense is doing, or you can dictate what the offense can and can't do. And we want our defenders to dictate what the offense can and can't do. And so every time that we step out on the field and we're playing defense, we ask every defender, okay, what are you taking away today? Are you taking away their right hand? Are you taking away the ISO? Are you taking away their ability to roll the crease? Are you taking away their ability to take the ball behind the cage? What are you taking away? I think too often defenders are reactive and not proactive. And so we want our defenders to be proactive, because as soon as you take something away, it makes that attacker much more predictable. As soon as you take away her right hand, you pretty much know what you're going to get. Or if she's left-handed, if you take that left hand away. And so we want our defenders to tell the offense where they can and can't go. As I mentioned earlier, bad defenders are hard to hide, and bad defenders guard their opponents wherever they want to go. And so those are just a few components that we have when we're trying to build an individual defender. And so when we talk about building somebody from the bottom up, of course the first thing is going to be footwork. And some of this stuff is certainly not original. You do ladder drills, you have agility drills that you do. We have found out that kids work a little harder when they compete. And so the more you can do where kids are competing against each other while doing these footwork drills, the more they're going to get out of it. So if you have one ladder and your team's lined up and you're doing agility drills, footwork, that's okay. If you have 2 ladders, and now every time a girl steps up, she's racing the girl next to her, trying to put 1 foot in each square, 2 foot in each square, bunny hop every other square. Now you're going to see that the yield is a little bit greater. They're going to work a little bit harder. One of the things that we do is teaching the kids just how to move laterally. And of course, teaching kids how to shuffle and bend their knees and get their rear end down is one thing. But we'll put 2 kids on a line, right here and right here, blow the whistle, and they'll have to race. So they're facing each other like this. You can do it with or without a stick, but they're facing each other, and now they're trying to race 10, 15 yards, and then you can have them go 10 yards and then turn and sprint another 10 yards. But anything you can do to make that competitive is going to make them want to be better. It's one thing to say, hey, you really got to be able to move your feet. It's another thing to say, hey, you and Sally are about to go toe-to-toe, and we're going to go 10-yard shuffle, 10-yard sprint, and put them on a clock and time them. Make the drills competitive. So that's what it says when it says shuffle lines. That's what I'm referring to. Jump rope's another good one, and not just the jump rope that probably we did when we were in school, but if they can cross it over, if they can go backwards, again, anything to get their foot moving. Agility work that we do, we'll do cone drills and zigzag drills. Cone drills, you put cones in a 10-yard square, something like this, and you can literally make up your own, whatever your team needs to work on. So we'll have a set of 4 where we'll have kids start at this cone, sprint, shuffle, back pedal, shuffle. And when the first girl gets the first cone, you can have the next girl go. And again, this ends up being a 40-yard workout. They can do 3 from one side and 3 from the other. You do want to have them going in different directions, or they'll just build up, the ability to go in one. But you can change it up. You can have them back pedal, sprint forward, shuffle, whatever you want to do. But all of these things, again, it's important for them for their footwork. It's important for joint stability. It's important to build up their knees, get their hips ready. But all the cone stuff, and again, that's not unique to lacrosse, I don't think. I'm sure we do it in other sports. And then at the end, we'll just have them sprint. So we can have them sprint up, we'll have them sprint down, sprint up. It also helps them work on changing direction, so they don't just have the ability to sprint forward, but they're able to stop. Anytime you have kids change direction, you want to talk about their ability to break down their steps, because initially what the girls will want to do is they'll sprint to a cone and then do a big wide turn. So you'll talk to them about, if the cone's right here, getting low, chopping your steps, and then planting and changing direction, to try to get them to change direction at an angle rather than a curve. And that's an easy thing, I think, for kids to visualize if you talk about angles versus curves, because then once they know it, you can say, hey, you curve that one, you need to angle that one. Okay, I know what coach is talking about. So that's what we mean by the cone drills. Zigzag drills, again, kind of transition from basketball, having cones this way and having kids work on drop step, shuffle, and drop step and go in the other direction. I think there's a limit to what you can do with some of these drills, because if you got smart kids, kids will start learning how to do the drill rather than learning how to do what you really want them to do. So we, to be honest, do a lot of this in the first couple of weeks, and then we might hit it once every 2 weeks as we go through the season. But it's not a thing that we're doing every day, because we want the kids to see a stick, we want them to see a ball, we want them to see an opponent. The best drill I think we've come up with for footwork, and what's funny is the kids say they hate it, and then our alums come back and say, Coach, are you still doing a breakdown drill? I don't know if it's some sick appreciation, they want to make sure other people are suffering, or they really do miss it. But I have some girls now who are coaching in other areas, and they'll say, Coach Watts, we did breakdown drill today. I say, how did it go? And they hated it. It was great. So I think they do realize when they're through, they get a lot out of it. But here's the way it works. And you can do it on a line, and then we'll change it up. So we'll have kids start 5 yards away from a line. So one offender there and one defender there. And at first, we do it with no sticks and no balls. And I think when you start doing team defense, depending on how good your team is, if your team struggles to throw and catch, your team's going to learn to play defense only against teams that struggle to throw and catch. When we've done things, especially with our JV or our junior high, We've done drills before where we just let them throw like what you would think of as a rubber kickball or whatever to run an offense, so the defense works against an offense that can catch. If you've got an offense that's going to pass, drop, then when you play a team that can throw and catch, your defense is going to suffer. So we start, again, with footwork, with breakdown drill. These two players are 5 yards from the line, and we blow the whistle, and this girl is supposed to sprint to the line as fast as she can, and this girl is supposed to sprint to the line as fast as she can to guard her. Obviously, they stop. What we tell the defender is, as you approach that offensive player, you're breaking down your steps, and you're getting your hands up. Again, we do it without a stick first. And then this girl can run, this is usually 10 yards, so we'll have a cone here and a cone here. This girl can simply run back and forth, and this girl has to mirror her. So if somebody's running back and forth right here at 10 yards, I'm right in front, and I'm going back and forth. At first, we literally have the girls just run cone to cone. Then we'll have the girls, do a head fake every now and then and see which one of these girls can literally stay right in front. You can do footwork drills by yourself. This is one where, again, because they're with somebody else, they're a little bit more motivated. Once they've done that a few times, we'll let them have a stick, and we'll still have the offensive player, without a stick, but we'll let them have a stick and just get used to kind of tagging that offensive player with their bottom hand and trying to follow, okay? And then eventually, we'll let the offensive player have a stick and have a ball. But again, we try to keep them on that line. Once we've done that for a few days and the girls get the hang of it, by the way, I would say we keep them in here for 12, 15 seconds. Eventually, what you'll see after about 10 seconds, a lot of the defenders, their rear end, they'll either stand up or their rear end pokes out and their back goes forward. And I don't want girls to practice something in the wrong technique. So I may add time. We may do it 10 seconds at a time at first, and then we may do 12, and then we may do 15. But they're doing it so fast, it's like tweet, go, 15 seconds, tweet, the next girls are going, because you've got a line of girls back here. And so it's pretty, you just go through it pretty quick. And it's good for conditioning too, if you're looking for something extra to do for conditioning. Eventually, again, we'll add a stick and a ball for the offensive player. And then, maybe 3-4 weeks into the season, we'll blow the whistle once for them to start. And then when we blow it again, the offensive player is trying to get across the line, and we're teaching the defender to hold the line. So eventually, that offensive player is here, and she's here, and she'll try to go across the line, and we're teaching the defensive player to hold her. Not to push, not to reach with the top hand. We teach bottom hand forward. I'll talk about position in a minute. But we're just trying to teach them to hold the line so they get used to that pressure. And we don't want them to be banging on them, and we don't want it to last 10 seconds. But it's like tweet, they go back and forth, tweet, hold, tweet, next group goes. So they're just working on holding and how that feels. You can, go back one. Once they do it on a straight line, you can have them do it on a curve. So we'll do it on the top of the arc. So they work on moving their feet more in a curve than moving it laterally. Again, I think if you do the same drill over and over, kids learn the drill. So we'll try to mix it up and do it on different parts of the field. Sometimes we'll do it on the goal line. It depends. But that's our breakdown drill, and that's kind of how we start teaching that footwork component. And some of this stuff you can knock out in 4, 5, 6 minutes at the start of practice, and you just build on it as the season goes. And so that's how we start trying to build our defenders from the bottom up. Questions on that before I go to the next slide? Okay. So then body position and stick position. I just came from my son's U12 youth basketball game, so I apologize I didn't even bring a stick. But I can still talk body and stick position. If somebody has one, maybe I can borrow one. Surely there's one in here somewhere. Body position, thanks Travis. We teach the kids to bend their knees. Thank you. Keep their butt tucked in and stay balanced. Okay? Body position often is what causes a stick foul. It's not the stick. So if you teach a kid to stand the correct way, again, knees bent, rear end down, back straight, and hold the stick, they're good. As soon as their back pooches out, as soon as their knees lock, look what happens to the stick. It wasn't that they really wanted to foul that girl, but their body position, if you lean like this, it's kind of hard to hold the stick back like this. It's not natural. So body position, I think, is important to teach before you even talk about stick position. If their body position is good, the stick position has a chance. Feet and hips under your shoulders, arms away, elbows locked. We teach our girls to play with their bottom hand slightly ahead of the top. It's natural, the girls want to reach. So we teach them to have their bottom hand out in front. If they make body contact, they're supposed to make contact with their bottom hand more than the top. If you make top contact with the top before you make contact with the bottom, it's kind of hard not to go into the sphere. We taught them to watch their opponent's hips and midsections. You will have girls, even if they told you they want to play defense and they love defense, that really just want to stick check. We will not stick check for a month when we start. We will play our scrimmage, and I will tell the girls, if you stick check, we will run tomorrow in practice for every check. Now, I'm not talking about the ones down here. But you really have to emphasize, if you're teaching stick checking the first day, they think that's most important. Okay? So if stick checking, our season starts January 25th. If stick checking comes in January, then kids are thinking, this is a point of emphasis. Coach is serious about the stick checking. If it rolls in February or March, then they realize that other stuff was more important because coach got to it first. Now, obviously, you have to teach them what a foul is, and you have to teach them to play safe. But I don't think the stick checking should be a hallmark part of anyone's defensive package. We want our kids to step up and deny lanes and not open their hips. So what that means is, if a girl's here, we talk about playing a girl on her pocket. So everybody, knows where their pockets are. If she's right-handed, I'm not going to play right here. I'm going to step one to the side and her right side and play her right pocket. And again, that's part of taking something away. If she's right-handed, I know she wants to go right. I'm going to try to make it harder for her to go right. She may still go right, but instead of going straight to the cage, if she has to run all the way around here to go right, then I've won that battle. And then again, teaching proper stick position, 2 hands on the stick, shaft between 10 and 2. So again, we teach to keep the bottom hand forward, hand here, and we want the stick open out. They'll be surprised, but every now and then they will intercept a pass, even though it's accidental sometimes, if they hold their stick this way. They want to hold it this way, they want to hold it this way, but if they'll hold it this way, you block more surface area, and you just might intercept one every now and then. Off the ball, we want them to keep their stick up and be big. So we talk about the difference between being on ball and off ball. Off ball, I want to be as big as I possibly can. My stick's in one hand. Usually it's emphasized to be in the passing lane unless we're doing something else that we're trying to take away. But the stick's in the passing lane and I'm big. The closer I get to the ball, the smaller I get. And so we'll work on, in a minute when I show you some of our team drills, we'll work on the difference between being off ball and being on ball. And being off and being on. And we'll just work that back and forth so they get in their idea. When I'm not on the ball, I'm as big as I possibly can be. And when I'm on ball, I want to be athletic, I want to be small, and I want to be a threat to take something away. Questions on that? All right, so I want to talk about this. This will make Veronica really proud of me. This year, as many of you know, there is a new foul, there is a new mandatory card for dangerous contact. And it is not just a defensive call. However, it will be called on the defense 9 times out of every 10. It'll be called on your offense when your offense sets a really dirty blind, not that any of yours would, of course, but when you set a blind pick in the midfield, or when a girl's trying to retaliate for something a girl did maybe 5 minutes ago on the other end of the field. But for the most part, this is going to be called on the defense. And of course, they're trying to emphasize safety. They're trying to keep the game safe so that we're not in helmets. Violent contact is not part of our game. The card is supposed to be called when there's an exhibition of what you would call a non-lacrosse related skill, which means there's no attempt to play the ball. You're trying to protect with a foul, you're trying to protect defenseless players, and you're trying to protect body parts that we want to protect, the head, the neck, the back, etc. And that's coming for all levels. So what is it? This is the definition of the rule, kind of summarized or restated, but intentional contact that thrusts from behind or out of the visual field. And it involves, for the officials, understanding of the game when a team is behind, stalling, beaten, or retaliated. So what this is going to be is the girl that just got the ball stolen from her, maybe it got checked, and maybe they called a foul. The official tells her to go 4 yards back. And instead of going 4 yards back and being ready to play, she's 4 yards back, and she's like, you know, bull, she's like this, she's like ready, and her hands up like this, and you just know, like it's payback time, okay? And so I think what's important for all of us to do in practice, and not everybody's official, but you got to call the fouls in practice. You got to call the fouls in practice. I can't go to everybody's practice, and our team is certainly not perfect, because Lord knows we foul. But what your teams do in a game is a reflection of what they do in practice. Or another way of saying that, what your teams try to get away with in a game is a reflection of what they get away with in practice. If your kids get called for 22 shooting spaces in a game, you got to think as a coach, how many times have I called it in practice? If your kids get called for 3 seconds 48 times in your next game, when's the last time I told a girl, well, you're in 3 seconds, you really need to get out of there? And if you do, what are the consequences for that in practice? So if your team fouls a lot, willing to bet, they foul a lot in practice. And it's all of us. Again, my team does it too. And usually when we've had a game, and we've had some where we gave up 24 8-meter shots, we had to sit down and say, okay, we've got to do a better job of seeing this in practice. So you've got to call the fouls in practice. How do you handle cardable offenses in your practice? If a girl gets checked in the head in practice, is there a consequence? Does she run a lap? Do you talk to her? Do they giggle and say, I'm sorry? Do they try to retaliate against each other in practice? Hopefully not. But again, I think a lot of times we get mad, and Lord knows I have, gotten mad at referees for the things they call in a game, but they're only calling what we bring to them. And so if we do a better job of officiating in practice, you'll be surprised how much better your game officials will be. And I think that's an important thing as coaches for us to understand. So let's talk about some team drills, and I'll draw several of them up here for you in just a minute. But again, emphasize to your team that defense is a team effort. This is super important to your goalie, especially if you have a new goalie. Don't say they scored on you, say they scored on us. Or they say they scored on her, they scored on you, meaning you, the team. Because the goalie's got to understand, in order for that ball to get to her, it had to go through 11 other people. And that's really important if you have a new defender. It's really a new goalie. It's really important if you have a goalie that's coming from soccer, where one goal is like, oh, this game's over, somebody's about to stall and pack it in, and it's going to be a 1-0 game. It's really important, I think, for the goalie to understand that defense is a team effort, and she's just 1/12 of that. She's not 50%. She's not some disproportionate piece. She's 1/12 of your team defense. Again, on the ball, you got to take something away. And I don't know, my vision's not so good. I see a couple people in here we've coached against, but you've probably heard us in games screaming at our girls, what are you taking away? What are you taking away? Because that's the point of emphasis for your defenders. If you see someone just stand there, the girl's coming down, and she's just standing there ready to play defense, she's not taking anything away. That girl can go left, that girl can go right. In the worst case, she'll go right at her, and then the girl will just back up, ready to play her, and then she's really getting to go wherever she wants. So on the ball, what are you taking away? Off the ball, we emphasize that we're trying to deny cutters. You can't block, you can't foul, but you can get in their way so that instead of being able to cut, you know, if you've got a girl that wants to cut right through here to get the ball, if your defender steps right here and rides with her, that cut suddenly becomes this cut because she had to go around her. And we've actually charted, shouldn't surprise any of you, every time you move outside of about this spot right here, every time you move a yard out, your goalie save percentage goes up 5–10%. So the difference between a goal and a save sometimes can be the defender who still let her girl catch the ball, because maybe this girl's really good, but instead of letting her go where she wanted to go, she had to go around that defender who had her stick out really wide, and so she had to catch it way out here with her outside hand. And she caught it and she tried to shoot, and lo and behold, you're thinking, wow, my goalie's gotten a lot better. Your defense got a lot better. Your defense got a lot better because you're not allowing that same shot. So denying the cutters is an emphasis for off-ball, and of course being able to help. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then your goalie, the way we phrase it, we tell our goalie she's the quarterback of the defense. The most important thing she can do is talk. She's got to call the plays, she's got to communicate problems, she's got to let her teammates know, hey, number 12's unguarded over here, or Sally, you got to take something away, or whatever defensive package you may be trying to run. But your goalie, it's very, very hard for your goalie to be an introvert. I hate to say that. Shout out to the introverts. But if they're quiet, your defense is missing something. You're going to have to designate somebody else on your team to do lots of talking. So most of us start out, I think, when we're teaching team defense, you think about doing 1v1s. And maybe, just maybe, you've done drills or you've seen people do drills where the ball starts up here and the defender starts here and somebody blows the whistle and says go. That is such an unrealistic drill to do, because how many times in a game does a 1v1 happen where this girl is stationary to start, and somebody just says go to cage with no help? And so when we do 1v1s in practice, we certainly do them. But we want to cut down the field to make it more game-like. So we might divide the field into 4 pieces. And we might have an offensive attack there, offense and attack there, offense and attack there. And we'll let the girls play one-on-one, but they have to play in their slice of pie. Or they'll have to play within a certain region of the field, because it is pretty unrealistic to allow this girl to go all the way over here, all the way back here, and all the way back in here to score. If girls are doing that on you when you play defense, you've got no slide, you've got no help, and you need to work on slides and help. It's not this girl's fault if she runs her all the way over here, runs her back, and the girl scores. So when we do 1v1s in practice, we're trying to do them in specific parts of the field. You might be trying to work on your crease defense. You might be trying to work on attacks from the elbows or drives from up top. If it's a drive from up top, we've done this before too, where we'll have cones like this. I guess that's a circle, it should be a cone. And then we'll have an attacker and a defender, and they have to play inside that part of the field. It's also good for your attack, because your attack then has to get used to working in tight spaces. But again, if you've got defenders that don't want to play defense in the first place, or you're trying to convince them that defense is a fun thing to do, putting them out on an island in a drill while their 20 teammates watch them get beat in a 1v1 to cage, there's not a lot of fun there. Okay? So we're trying to put the defense in a position where they have a chance that's fair to be successful as well. And so again, when we do 1v1s, we want to cut down the field in pieces, and we want to think about what's realistic in a game. If you're getting beat by girls attacking you from behind the cage, then do crease stuff. Do stuff down here, 1v1s. Let all your girls play crease defense. But try to avoid the 1v1 stagnant. The other thing about the 1v1, and this maybe is my math background, but we try to look at efficiency in practice, who's touching the ball, who's in the play, and who's not. If you're doing a 1v1 drill and you've got a team of 20 girls, 90% of your team are spectators. You've got 2 girls in the drill and you've got 18 standing still. And if you have limited practice space or limited practice time, you don't have time to have 90% of your girls watch. So by putting them in 4 corners or putting them in 3, as soon as this group is done, blow the whistle, the next group goes, blow the whistle, the next group does. And while this group's getting ready, this group's setting up with the next pair. And now kids are moving and there's not as much stationary time. We try, yeah, sorry.
Do you run all those at the same time, or do you run one pie
No,
slice?
we do it, but it's literally like, go, and if this girl drops the ball, or if she shoots, or if this girl checks it away from her, or whatever, I blow the whistle and the next group goes. So it's like boom, boom, boom. Because we'll put it, again, The other thing about this makes it more fair to your goalie too, because the goalie at least has a semblance of where the ball is coming from. You know, it's not fun to play goalie when this girl beats her, it's 1v1, and then you just see she's just coming, and the goalie's, she's just coming. But if she knows she's coming from this area, this area, this area, makes it a little more realistic for the goalie as well.
Hey Jay, 10 minutes.
Really?
10 minutes?
Okay. I will pick up the pace. Any other questions? Okay. So, team drills. Ooh, we're cut off. Okay, I know what that is though. Everybody's done 2v1s, 3v2s, 4v3s, those types of things. Probably starts with your goalie, throw the ball out, 2v1. Again, you've got to put a time limitation on that. If you're doing a 3v2 drill and the offense is passing it around, maybe they've made 5 or 6 passes, they've had the ball 15 seconds, how long does a 3v2 last in a game? Maybe 3 to 5 seconds. So after 3 passes, if we're doing 3v2 for example, after 3 passes, if the offense hasn't scored, they're done. I don't care if they've caught every pass, I don't care if they're hustling, I don't care who they are, we're done. Next group, 3v2. Again, keeps more motion in the practice, but you've got to make it game-like, you've got to make it realistic. There's a series of drills that we do that the girls really like, and again, you're going to have drills that your girls really like. The first one is called Duke Drill, but I'll show you how we introduce it. So the first time we really start talking about team defense is when we do 4-on-3s. And the first time we do it, we'll do what's called a box drill. So we'll have 2 girls here, 2 girls right here, and 3 defenders, and the ball's right here. And they're stationary. They're standing still. This is not a transition drill at first. And so, you know, we tell the offensive player, where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go here. Okay, so you pass it here. So how do you guard that? This girl has to learn how to slide up, this girl learns how to slide over, and this girl learns how to slide back. She does not slide straight back. If she slides straight back and this girl flashes to the ball, she gets beat. So she has to slide back in a check mark. She has to slide back to the middle. And what that looks like, if I'm on ball here and the ball gets passed and I know I've got to drop, I'm dropping this way and then I'm recovering to hit my girl. Notice I drop with my stick in the passing lane. Okay? And so we'll do that where the girls pass it back and forth and the kids get used to rotating. And this is the first time where we really start talking about slides. How do you slide? Why do we always leave one of these girls open and always guard these 2? Because you always want to guard the 2 girls that are closest to the cage. It always inevitably happens. I'll be doing the drill, somebody will guard these 2 girls and leave somebody open. And I'll be like, you know, why are we guarding Sally? Why are we not guarding Elizabeth? You know, and Sally's like, Coach, it's like, it's not you, Sally, it's you are 12 yards from the goal, and Elizabeth is 2 yards from the goal. So we got to guard the position. So what we do from there after the girls have learned that rotation is we'll let the offensive players just cut to the ball if they don't have it, cut to the ball if they're unguarded,